Joining us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, a man who watches a lot of tape, a man who knows his football. Played a little college running back himself. He's down at the East-West Shrine game this week, so we will touch on Kyler Murray in a little bit, but we will start with the championship games, which you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Follow him on Twitter at FBallGamePlan, the one and the only Emory Hunt. Emory, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing fine, Josh. I appreciate you having me on.
We appreciate you coming on. So, look, we've been talking about these championship games, and one of the things I brought up is that, you know, I know everyone's focusing on the quarterbacks. The quarterback is that sexy position. But football, Emory, as you know, is a team sport. And I was going through these team salaries. Justin Houston, Aaron Donald, Stephon Gilmore, Cameron Jordan. You got some defensive players who are making a lot of money. And to me, I know a lot of people talk about the quarterbacks, talk about the head coaches, but Emory, these defensive players need to earn their paychecks this Sunday or their teams are going to lose, man.
Well, for me, it's always about can you score and can you take the ball away. And you look at the guys that you mentioned, all of those guys have the ability to take the ball away. And, yes, they will have to step up big because each one of the offenses left in this NFC and AFC championship game all have top offenses. So it's going to be up to the defense to go in there, whether they're home or away, and make their presence felt early and come away with the victory.
When you look at, you talk about scoring, you know, these are four of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. Now, last year we had three of the best defenses in the NFL in the championship game. So for you, what is the biggest difference from last year's Final Four to this year's Final Four?
I think all of them have the same qualities as far as their offenses. You look at the quarterbacks and their ability to work the ball deep down the field. These are all explosive offenses. You have Pat Mahomes, Jared Goff, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady. All of these guys are apt to making throws at the intermediate level with consistency and also deep down the field. Now, if I had to rank them, it would probably be Brady, Brees, Mahomes, and Goff. But all of those guys can definitely help their offense put points up on the board. So that's why you see the difference here. And also in conjunction with the fact that these coaches are more inclined to let those guys go out there and win the game with their arms. So that's why you're seeing the passing numbers. That's why you're seeing the ability to stretch the field vertically and the subsequent success that they're having.
I asked my co-host Dashawn this earlier. I want to ask you the same question, Emory. Which of these four coaches do you trust the most, and which of them do you trust the least in this big game moment?
This is an easy one. To me, you trust Bill Belichick the most because he has the 8 consecutive AFC Championship game appearances, and you trust Sean McVay the least because he hadn't been here. I mean, you can trust Andy Reid, you can trust Sean Payton, all those guys have been here before, but this is Sean McVay's first go-around in the championship game, so he will be the one I think you can trust the least.
Emory, when you look at both of these matchups, I tend to think that me and Josh talked about it earlier, that the three best defenses that we thought this year, in being Baltimore, Chicago, and Dallas, they aren't playing. So is this going to be more of an offensive weekend when you talk about points being brought up, or do you think these defenses will rally and make this closer games than we think they'll be?
On paper, it looks like it's going to be offense, but we talk about the offense ad nauseum, but when you look at each one of these teams' defense, the Saints have the ability to match up against receivers with their long, lengthy corners. The Chiefs have gotten better, much better defensively, especially on the back end, and they're more apt to stop and run. The Patriots have done a great job staying athletic within the back seven. And the Rams, we know they have two dynamic defense tackles in Aaron Donald and Adamika Tua. Also with two guys on the back end, in Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters, there are matchup problems as well. So I think this will be a defensive weekend more so than what the on-paper matchups look like for the offense.
Emory Hunt joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at FBallGamePlan for all of your football coverage. He's right now down at the East-West Shrine game this week, getting some visual on personal some of these players. Emory, you know, when you look around the NFL this year, like I said before, the quarterback is a sexy position, but to me, football is a team game, and you play the running back position, and you know that when you look at the Saints, you look at the Rams, you can't talk about those offenses without talking about those tandem of running backs.
Exactly. It's all about control with the running game, and that's what it's all about. When you have guys that can dictate the pace, dictate the terms from the backfield, you have yourself a winning football team. You're going to be in a lot of close games. You're going to have the ability to close out games, and I think that's what the Rams and the Saints are able to do. And they also have guys that can hit the home run, Alvin Kamara being one of them. Mark Ingram can do a great job of ripping up yards in chunks, and we know about Todd Gurley's exploits. And C.J. Anderson proved his worth last week against the Dallas Cowboys. So you have backs that can really hit the home run, that can do a great job of dictating the pace of the game and dictating the terms. So if worst-case scenario, the passing game is having an off day, they can always turn around and just hand the ball off.
What are your thoughts on C.J. Anderson? I mean, this guy, he says he's got fresh legs. He's played incredible in this stretch of games for the Rams. What do you think the key has been for his success? Is it just the fact that he fits so well what the Rams like to do? Is part of it the other teams were not using him properly? What is your perspective on what you've seen from Anderson?
I think he's just more confident now and happy. When you finally have that team that believes in you, that understands what you bring to the table, you're able to play free as a player. You're able to play much more confident, and you're going to have success. And we saw that last week against the Cowboys, where he was just in that running back groove, getting the football, finding cracks in the defense, and exploiting those for big gains. And I'm happy to see him have success because I always thought he was a really good player, great vision, great footwork, and you're starting to see it play out on the field with the Rams.
If I had to nail you down, who are you picking this weekend?
Saints and Chiefs. I see a New Orleans, Kansas City Super Bowl.
And I agree with you, Emory. And now moving on to Kyler Murray, who is one of the most intriguing prospects that I've seen come along in a while, just because of the fact that he can play the quarterback position, in my opinion. But his height seems to be a question for a lot of NFL personnel. First, do you believe that he will stick with the NFL draft and be drafted and play football? And if so, do you believe that he is an NFL quarterback?
I do believe he will stick with football. It seems as though he loves the game of football. He was the number one quarterback recruit, played at A&M, had a hot start. Then we saw him go out there and win the Heisman Trophy with Oklahoma, breaking passing records while also rushing for 1,000 yards. And I like the fact that he's still able to drive the football anywhere he wants to on the field. And if you're good enough, you're big enough. And I just think that I'm so happy I lived long enough to see the NFL finally come around to size not being a skill. Because if you can play, you can play. I just wish guys like Joe Hamilton would have been born 20 years later, because they would have been right in line to reap some of the success that these guys are having. And when you look at Kyler Murray, you look at what he has done behind that big, massive Oklahoma offensive line. I just think that he's coming out at the right time, because the league seems to be a little bit more liberal as far as height is concerned at certain positions. You see Tariq Cohen do it at the running back position, getting feature back carry. So yes, if you're good enough, you're big enough, and I definitely like the way this young man plays the game.
For people that haven't seen a lot of Kyler Murray, remember, I've personally been watching him since he's been, at Texas A&M, and I'm sure you have too. But for people who aren't familiar with him and they see a running quarterback and they say, hey, he's just a running quarterback and he's small, he reminds me of Johnny Manziel or whatever the case may be, can you kind of educate those people on what really makes Kyler's game go?
The fact that he can hit the ball deep down the field with accuracy. He has a real strong arm. That baseball motion actually helps him because he's able to get maximum velocity on his passes, and that's why he's able to work touchdown to check down. And when you look at his athleticism, I find it funny that people are knocking athleticism, but these are the same folks that would scream at their TV and scream at their quarterback for not getting out of the way of a sack. But when they have a guy that has the ability to overcome offensive line issues, or whether it be because somebody can't block or because they just saw a lane and are able to extend the drive or pick up a big gain, that's what you want. That makes it an 11-on-11 game that opens up the entire offense. And I love what Kyler Murray does when he runs. He does a great job of sacrificing himself by getting down, sliding, living to play another down. That's why he's so successful as a quarterback.
So I got yelled at by my co-host, Dashawn Emory. And you can yell at me too if you want, but I have a guy that I think Kyler Murray can be. When I watch him play, I think there's an element of his game that reminds me of another Heisman Trophy winner. Another Heisman Trophy winner who had mobility, but also had a lot of success in the NFL because he was a very underrated, accurate quarterback and underrated arm. When I see Kyler Murray, I think his potential could be Roger Staubach. Your thoughts?
You know, I mean, comparisons are always tricky. And when you look at how Roger played and how Frank Tarkington played, you know, I think you can make a comparison there. A guy that's just going to lift, he's going to find the open guy. He's going to be able to have that it factor. You like that about his game. So I can understand why you would make that comparison. And I do think a lot of those comps, whether it's Staubach, Tarkington, Russell Wilson, Flutie, all those guys that seem to have a knack for it, I think he can, aptly fit that description. I even think that, I'm old enough to remember how good of a quarterback Randall L. was at Indiana. You know, he just didn't get an opportunity. They moved him to receiver. So, to me, Murray plays a lot like him, and I'm just glad to finally see a guy have a chance at 5'9" and a quarter to make something happen at the quarterback position.
My co-host is still giving me the dirty look for comparing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Emory, and you can. My comparison wasn't that good either. I mean, I said he reminded me a little of RG3 before the injuries. I think that Kyler's a better thrower of the football, and RG3 wasn't no slouch throwing the football. He was more accurate than people give him credit for. But his play style a little bit reminds me of that, with the accuracy and the way he can move. But again, comparisons are comparisons.
Well, yeah, when you look at RG3, I think people criminally underrate how accurate he was. And if it wasn't for a terrible field at FedEx Field and the dumb offense they was forcing him to run, this guy could I still think he can be a very good passer, quarterback in the league if given the opportunity. He should have a market for his services once the season is over with. And you're right. This guy, I think he has a stronger arm than RG3. He's not as reckless of a runner. He has a little bit more agility. RG3 was straight line fast, and that's what essentially got him, banged up a bit because he didn't know how to slide, didn't know how to protect himself. You don't see those things with Kyler Murray.
Does Kyler Murray's weight, how small he is, bother you in any way? Because we saw, look, Baker Mayfield is quote unquote short. Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, they're not really tall, but they're thick guys. They're built. They can take a hit. Is there a part of you that looks at Murray's frame and concerns you at all?
Not really, because guys have played that size their entire life, so that's what they know. You know what I'm saying? And he hasn't been hurt since, so until I see it, then I won't believe it. So and for now, all I can believe and trust is that he's going to be out there a full 16-game season.
And Emory, too, his baseball background helps him out. I mean, I've watched him run and do a full baseball slide, and once they do that, all you can do is touch him.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's how you survive as a quarterback. You could scramble, run, pick up first downs, and do a great job with that. But as long as you protect yourself, you're good to go. You see Lamar Jackson do it. You see Russell Wilson do it. You see guys like Aaron Rodgers do it. You saw Rich Gannon do it when he was starting to scramble around a lot with the Oakland Raiders. So if you're able to do that and protect yourself, it's just going to frustrate the defense. It's going to help your team win as a result.
Emory Hunt joining us on the Boardwalk on the hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him on Twitter at FBallGamePlan. Emory, before I let you go, if you had to pick a landing spot for Kyler Murray, like the perfect situation that's within reason, obviously. Like, he ain't going to go to the Patriots or anything like that. But within reason of the teams that need quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, who do you think would be the best situation for him in the NFL?
I think either the Giants or the Miami Dolphins. I think those two will be ideal because they have a lot of speed on offense. And when you have speed in conjunction with a quarterback that has speed himself and also has the ability to extend the play, and there's going to be a recipe for a lot of ridiculously big plays in the passing game as a result. So I think those two, because of their personnel, is tailor-made for Kyler Murray.
Really quick, can you bring up the quarterback you mentioned earlier from Georgia Tech?
Joe Hamilton.
Dashawn, do you even know who Joe Hamilton is?
I mean, I have an idea of who he is, but you're trying to be funny, make fun of my age. I mean, I think that's obvious.
Emory, I appreciate you letting me make fun of my co-host at your own expense. So,
thank you for your time, Emory.
But not a problem, guys. I appreciate you guys. And quick shout out to the Shrine game. The game is tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern time on NFL Network. Great event, a lot of good talent down here at St. Pete on display, and they do a great job with the Shriners Hospital. I would be remiss if I didn't give those guys a shout out.
Is Tyree in that game? Tyree Jackson, or is he's underclassman still? Correct.
He's going to be in the Senior Bowl next week.
Okay.
We will have Emory on as we lead up to the draft as well, because Emory always has a keen eye on the college game. Also being a former college running back himself, watching a lot of tape. So, Emory, we will be checking in with you throughout the offseason. Appreciate your time on a Friday.
Thanks, Sam.
Anytime, guys.